Hey,
Hello. Good morning.
we're doing something different today. We're doing our usual putting the real in real estate broadcast on our personal profiles instead of our business pages. Um, we think this information, especially today, is applicable to just about everybody. So
Correct.
we thought we would pop over here and say hello and share some tips for preparing your home for the winter season. If you've lived in a home for a long time, you're probably well aware of these, but maybe not. Maybe we've got something unusual for you or something you didn't know about or think of.
Or a
And
reminder because you haven't gotten around to it and you
you
meant
haven't
to
gotten
maybe
around to it
2
because
months
it didn't,
ago.
quite feel like winter except for that one day when it was freaking zero.
Oh, it feels like winter. Don't worry.
Danielle feels like winter on like August 29th.
Absolutely.
So I am Ruth Gian.
And I'm Danielle Tully.
And we're with eXp Realty, and we're putting the real in real estate. So we often have first-time home buyers. We work with lots of them, and the overwhelming information that you get when you buy a home can be really intimidating, like drinking from a fire hose, and it can be difficult to remember it all. So this is just a little moment of a reminder for some things to do.
Correct. So the first one would be to trim those trees outside. So we haven't had too many windstorms or, really icy days or anything like that just yet, but it's coming. Don't worry. It is coming. So making sure that if you have any trees that are over, decks or over, especially over, your roof or anything close, to trim those, because as the winds pick up or as bad ice storms happen, they get heavier and heavier and sometimes can break. And you certainly don't want to be having a tree fall in anywhere once that happens. So make sure they're kind of low enough. And
the other thing about that is you want to make sure that they're a good few feet away from the house at least, because the other thing that happens when the weather gets cold is animals get cold and they look for some place to go live instead of outside. And that just might be your attic. So if they can access that easily by walking on a branch to get over to your roof, and then they just chew a big hole in it and climb in. So,
okay. We want you also to be prepared for power outages. Now, I know that it's been a very long time since we've had like a real, more than anything than a brownout, but you definitely want to make sure that you might want to consider, if you are in an area that sometimes gets it, make sure that backup you have a backup generator if you need it, if it's something that you've, experienced any type of gas or power that you might need for it. Make sure that you have extra blankets around or firewood around, depending on what type of house you have. And obviously making sure the batteries in any flashlights are newer, or you have backups for that. So we want to kind of always...
And we get really reliant on our cell phones, but if you're using the flashlight from your cell phone to light your house for very long and you can't plug your cell phone in to charge it, that's not going to last too long. So we have candles. Also, one of those cranker charger things for an emergency is a good idea for your phone.
Yes, those backup chargers are really nice with the cranks. So another one is checking your home's insulation. This one is one of those that could be kind of, there's some, we're not talking about necessarily putting more insulation, but yeah, you could check out your roof. If we get snow and you start to see portions of your roof are melting right away, and you're not seeing that on your neighbors, your neighbors is nice and covered and yours is not, or you're getting sections and holes and whatever around the rest of the snow and the ice, that is indication that you are losing heat out of your home. So you might want to check your attic spaces and make sure that those are properly insulated. I don't know, who knows the last time that it was done? Was it when it was built? So you might want to double check and make sure you have a good few layers of that.
And you bring up a point too, when if your house is not new or newish, when it was built, insulation would have been a very different kind of thing. And it would have had the R value is how they measure how insulated insulation is. So the R value between what's available now versus 20 years ago or 30 years ago is very, very different. So newer insulation is much, much better.
Right. So you want it, that's a nice indicator, but because if you go upstairs, like if you told me to go upstairs and check my insulation, I'd kind of stare at it and go, looks good to me.
Looks fluffy.
But that is an indication that it might be time to have something more professional. But outside of that, kind of checking, if there's drafts around your windows, you can do a little bit of caulking if it seems to be kind of on the trim area. If not, one of my favorite products are those like 3M products that you kind of have the temporary plastic up to kind of keep it from drafting. We had that one growing up.
Also made by Warp Brothers Flexiglass, where Tim used to work.
So. Oh, fun. Well, there's a thing.
They make that too.
So there's that.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's shrink wrap. So you stick it up and then you use a blow dryer to shrink it, and it creates a really tight seal. And that is great for doors and windows that either don't have enough insulation in the glass panes themselves.
Correct.
Or you're not able to seal it like you said.
Correct. And then also you might want to look at your, the doors in and out of the house, maybe the door of the garage, the doors in the back, the doors in the front, to make sure that there's a nice weather stripping on the bottom. See how the weather stripping is around the frame as well, because those definitely wear over time. And so you want to check for drafts around there. And so you might want to think about updating that. That's another thing to kind of help you keep
help keep critters out too.
Yeah, that too. Yes. So, and then lastly, we have the idea of making sure that you get your furnace checked out. Call your HVAC person. Call us to get an HVAC person's number. And they'll come and they'll do a nice little inspection. Also make sure you've changed your filters. If it's been a while, some of those filters are supposed to last, several months. I think those are not necessarily supposed to be the best to keep the life for your filters. Those thinner ones, and just replacing those on a more regular basis are often recommended. But so we do that too. So have somebody come in, check it out, because the last thing you want would be to be in the middle of the night and find out that your furnace failed.
This is a good time to learn how your humidifier works on your furnace as well. So if you don't have your humidifier on, typically it's turned off for the summer and then turned on for winter months. If you don't have it on, you're going to be giving each other shocks all over the house, and kids will be screaming at each other for doing the shock thing.
Yeah. Also, if you're one who kind of changes, I'm sure they've already done this because it is mid-December, but you can change your HVAC flow, the layer, the rooms, because heat rises, right? So in the summer, often you open up the high ones for your, now this is where
yes,
the returns, right. Up in the top, you want it the lower levels in the winter. If you're working around that.
And change the direction of your ceiling fans.
I was going to say that next. That was going to be my last little tip. If you haven't, again, the flow of how the fans are moving based on their tilt, it can affect, the way the flow goes. So you're supposed to change it. I think most ceiling fans have like I think it tells you.
Yeah, it's just a little switch that goes back and forth, and some of them are really nice, and they say summer on one side and winter on the other. Otherwise, I would suggest doing what I do every year and Google which direction should my ceiling fans go in the winter.
We should have been prepared with that bit of information. That would have been the real, keeping the real in real estate.
This is a little more real. We forgot.
Yes, as we always do. So you're not infallible. So those are about 5 tips or so that we thought would be helpful, especially before we get real into the nitty gritty of the last couple of weeks of December, and getting you prepared for having the best winter you can.
And then I'm just going to add, if it gets really cold, typically around 0 or less, you want to make sure always to leave a little bit of water running in one of your sinks. Water that's flowing won't freeze up and burst your pipes. water that is still can do that. And then the pressure can build up and you can have quite a mess and a very expensive repair. And then also if you have a fireplace, as we discussed before, not a particularly efficient way to heat houses in most cases, unless they're modified to do so. But you know, we love them. They're great to look at. Make sure that after the fire is gone and completely out and dead, that you close the damper, because if you leave that open, that's going to be a huge draft source.
Yes. Another thing is also leaving the doors open of cabinets that have pipes. If it's like in the kitchen or in the bathroom.
Yeah, like under the kitchen sink.
And it's exposed to an outdoor outside wall. So
yes,
those are helpful. So if you have any good tips that we didn't mention, we would love to hear them. So leave them in the comments and we will be sure to include it next time. We do something like this next fall and winter time. So, we will see.
Also, everyone can come and look at the comments afterward, because these will be on our Facebook profile. So
you said hello to Melissa already, but
I did.
Yeah. So until next Friday, we
keeping the real in real estate.
Ruth and Danielle. All right, take care.